broken nation, broken law of the ancient. Yahuwah words are sacred, he's so patient. Broken from language, broken from everything that we've known. We broken, we spiritually broken, replace that void with sound. Big mama practiced at home, but boy, she sang in them churches, trying to sing out her pain. It's like we spiritually hurting. I see my people with curses, content to live with no purpose. And we all seem to fight, it's like a circus, I know. But we could party for show and get fresh and go. It seems the cares of the world is more important to most. And even me, I'm not exempt. See, my flesh could be tripping. And the choices that you make will only choose your position. You see, a fool lacks wisdom, and it shows in your actions. So if you...
Okay, so welcome to the House of Israel Assembly. Welcome for all of those of you who are on Facebook Live at this time. I want to welcome you, those who are on, who are going to be watching this on the House of Israel Assembly, Madisonville, Kentucky, on YouTube. And want to welcome those who are also going to be viewing this on Yoshaya Israel YouTube page as well. I want to thank you all for joining in. I pray that this will be good for you all. What's going on, Cousin Wayne? What's going on, Crystal? Good to see you all here. But I want you all to really just listen and pay attention to what is going to be said today. I probably, just going to be up front, will probably be spending most of my time into the camera. Many of you all probably already know what I'm getting ready to say, but I think there's going to be a great need to focus on the camera. If you have relatives who are in organized religion, we'll just leave it at that. I pray that you share this to them. You probably will not hear this in church. 6 out of 10 churches today believe in what I'm getting ready to speak against. Let me say that again. 6 out of 10 churches today believe in what I am getting ready to speak against. So there is a right and there is a wrong. All right? There's a right and there is a wrong. You individually are going to have to decide, are you going to choose right or are you going to choose wrong? Are you going to choose what Yah's word says or are you going to choose what man says? Because if you follow this doctrine is from man. It started in the 2nd century, okay? The 2nd century, when the Catholic Church was really starting to roll, when everything was really starting to take place, Christianity has come in. Now, before that, there was no Christianity. It was called believing in the way. They were called the way, the Nazarene, or followers of the way is what we were called, what the early believers were called. They were not called Christians, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but we have to get to the truth of the matter. So when Constantine came in, he started the religion called Christianity, and he fought many wars over Christianity. All right. Many people died over Christianity. Okay. So when you go back into Acts and you say that they were first called Christians, you have to look at it in context. Who did the calling of the name Christian? Okay. Christian, when you go back and take its etymology roots, it comes back as dumb, idiot. Okay, so the people of Rome were calling the believers dumb idiots. Okay, that's what, go to etymology on Google, type in the word Christian. It will pull up the reference of it. So these people were calling these believers out of a name that was not their name. Come on, y'all. Most of y'all know what that's like today. We get called out of our name all the time. But does that mean that's what we are because somebody calls us that? No, it doesn't. And so that's what has happened with this name. Y'all hear me say all the time, if Yah doesn't call us Christians, If Messiah Yahusha doesn't call us Christians, if the apostles doesn't call us Christians, then why are we calling ourselves Christians? This is why the Christian religion can make up its things that it's making up. Is the camera, is it freezing up?
No.
It looks like it's freezing up on mine.
Well, it's behind. So
Okay, yeah, I know it's behind. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let me quit flapping my gums trying to set this up, but let's get into some foundations of what we're getting ready to read. Okay. So I'm going to read to you from Wikipedia what this is called. So it's actually called supersessionism. Okay? Supersessionism. So you can already think and know about where this is going. Think of super, which is high, and session. So let's look at it. The etymology of supersessionism. The word supersessionism comes, and you can go to Wikipedia to look this up. The word supersessionism comes from the English verb to supersede, from the Latin verb sedere or sedere or sedi or sessum, which means to sit. Plus, the word super means upon. So it is to sit upon. All right. So supersessionism is basically no more than the church sitting upon Israel. Meaning that Israel is no more. It's done away. The church has taken Israel's place. Let's keep on reading about it though. It thus signifies one thing being replaced or supplanted by another. Okay? So being replaced or supplanted by another. Now, during the Yahusha's time, during the apostles' time, this was never heard of. Nobody ever talked about this. So now we find ourselves involved in a doctrine that was never known by the apostles. A doctrine that was never known by John or any of those in that relative area time. But when this outside force comes in and starts to take over the belief and changes it into a religion, that's when you begin to find it popping up. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why can't we find historical facts in the Bible about supersessionism or replacement theology, that the church is now going to replace Israel, or fulfillment theology, the church fulfills what Israel couldn't do? All right? Supersessionism, also called replacement theology, is a Christian doctrine which asserts that the new covenant through Jesus Christ supersedes the old covenant. Y'all, that's one covenant. It's just been renewed, made newer. It's not no two different things. With a testament, you can do that. With a covenant, it stays, and you can add to it. You can renew that covenant, but you cannot renew a testament. All right? So the new covenant through Jesus Christ supersedes the old, which was made exclusively with the Jewish people. In Christianity, supersessionism is a theological view on the current status of the church in relation to the Jewish people. Now, they're just going to talk what they know, okay? Everybody in the world believes that the people who are in the land today are the Jewish people. They don't know about the hidden ones that the Bible talks about. So the people who are over there today, that is not the people, okay? They are people who converted to Judaism. The whole nation of them converted to Judaism, and now other countries made it to where that land over there is theirs today. Granted, the rulers of those people allowed certain things to happen to them to cause the world to say, okay, give them the land over there that was not even theirs. They have their own people who are saying, hey, that's not our land. We don't belong over there. Okay, so the world does not understand who the true Jew or the true Yehudi, who the real Israel actually is. This is another that has been put in the real Israel's place. You just go back and look it up. You can go look up the conversions of the Khazars, because they are Jewish Khazarians. Okay, that's all information that the church don't dare touch. So in Christianity, supersessionism is a theological view of the current status of the church in relation to the Jewish people and Judaism. We don't do no Judaism, okay? But that's all they can relate it to. See, this is when you know Satan has had his hand in. We don't do Judaism. Judaism tries to take the Torah and man's teachings, man's rules. That's why the Messiah was always after them, blasting them about their man-made traditions. See, you get your man-made traditions from the Talmud and all of those things involved in Judaism. But we don't do Judaism, okay? The Bible isn't about Judaism. But if you look at the way things are set up today, you're to believe it's all Judaism. Judaism is basically this. It's the belief of Torah mixed with mysticism, magic, okay? There is no magic. It's only Yah and his word. So men come in and they add things and they put these different things. And after you, I ain't gonna say some of the things that they say, but it's not. Judaism is not the true teaching of the Torah. Okay, that's a name that came along a lot later also. Let's see, the new covenant has replaced or supersede the Mosaic covenant. It's all one covenant. For a supersessionist point of view, just by continuing to exist outside of the church, the Jews' dissent. The view directly contrasts with dual covenant theology. Dual covenant theology is believing that the Jews are under one covenant, so they're going to make it, and the Christians are under another covenant. No, there is no such thing as dual covenant theology. It's one covenant that has been made renewed by Messiah. One covenant been renewed by Messiah. So there is no dual stuff. If you are a Hebrew, I say Hebrew because the Jews ain't the only. You can call me a Jew, but that's only one tribe of the 12 tribes. Where's all the rest of them? What's their names? Everybody's not a Jew. Who is Israel? Okay, so if you're a real Yahud and you don't believe in Messiah, oh well. If you are I'll use the word Christian. I don't have any other word to use. If you are a believer of the way today, where it's all connected, you're not separate from the people who bought it to you anyway. Okay, we have to understand that. To the Jew first, it says, then to the Gentile. We're going to go over that. Let's keep going. Suppressionism has formed a core tenet of the Christian churches for the majority of their existence. Christian traditions that have traditionally championed dual covenant theology, including the Roman Catholic, Reformed, and Methodist teachings of this doctrine. Listen, if you belong to a Baptist church, if you belong to a Methodist church, if you belong to an apostolic church, it don't matter what name you give it. You are a branch off of the Catholic Church. I know it's hard to hear. Hey, I probably wouldn't want to hear it either. But you know what? We in the days where the truth is going to be proclaimed. And whether it's going to be proclaimed by brothers who know the truth, whether it's going to be proclaimed by me, or whether it's going to be proclaimed by a rock, he's going to get something to tell the truth to the people. All right? Supersessionism is a hoax. Replacement theology. It is used to keep an organization in power. That's nothing more. You go back and look at all the scriptures in the older covenant. Well, if you believe replacement theology, you don't have to believe those scriptures in the older covenant anymore. They're pushed to the side. They don't mean nothing no more. Because what we do in the church today, that's all that matters. And you've got all these prophecies over in the older covenant, all these books back here in the older covenant telling more prophecy that's going to take place than the newer covenant actually talks about. But when you get people brainwashing to believe in a certain thing, guess what? They'll start to believe it. And when somebody comes along who tries to tell you about Torah, somebody comes along and tries to tell you about Israel, it's all replaced. Last thing, and this is even more crazy. So including the Roman Catholic Reform and Methodist teachings of this doctrine have taught that the moral law continues to stand. So they'll take the moral law, don't murder. They'll take those things, but the other laws, they won't take. Subsequent to and because of the Holocaust, this is Wikipedia, some mainstream Christian theologians and denominations have rejected supersessionism. So because this happened to a group of people, the Holocaust took place, which Hitler and all of them were involved in. The heads of the Jewish people were involved in, the Rothschilds, all of them people. They were willing to sacrifice. Holocaust, blood sacrifice is what it's called. They were willing to give a blood sacrifice of their own people to get the most historic, the most precious land, and for them to be able to dwell in it. And that is what took place. So now, because Israel, the people who call themselves Israelis, they don't even call themselves Israelites. They call themselves Israelis. So because the people who are over there are Israelis, the church looks at it as a prophetic thing in scripture, and now their rapture is getting ready to happen. Last thing on this. You know something is up. What's the three major religions? Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Judaism is not Bible. I don't care what nobody tells you. It's not Bible. It is some of the truth of the Torah mixed in with magic. So you've got three major religions. Y'all wake up. You got the sun representing Christianity for sun worship. You've got the moon representing Islam, moon worship. And you've got the star representing Judaism. And they wear their cursed pointed star around their neck. Y'all, come on. These are the three major religions of Satan. Sorry. I know that's tough. Just you got to go back and research for yourself. The Most High says, stay away from the sun, the moon, and the stars. Don't let them take you nowhere. It's in Deuteronomy. Look it up. So I'm going to prove this last one. The Islamic tradition views Islam as the final and most authentic expression of Abrahamic prophetic monotheism, suspending both the Jewish and Christian teachings. You've got these three major religions in the world that are fighting, powering against each other. After a while, they're going to be joined. They're going to be one up under the man of sin himself. It's called the ecumenical movement. After a while, everybody's going to, oh, your God is the same as my God. Oh, your God lets you eat pork. Well, mine don't. They're going to blend it all together. So we see that these major religions who run everything, hey, we don't claim no religion. We claim Yah and his son through his blood. That's what we claim. We are followers of him. We put no man's name on us. When you go back and look at the word Christian, it actually started in Egypt. There was one who was called Christ in Egypt. This is thousands of years before Messiah came. And his followers were called the followers of Christ. So we're going to take a rebranding and something and put it on another people like that's their religion, and it's not. Okay. The doctrine of Tarif teaches, this is Islam, that earlier monotheistic scriptures of their interpretations have been corrupted, while the Quran presents a pure version of the divine message that they originally contained. Now, they only look at Yahusha as a prophet. They don't even look at him as a savior. So how are they even in cahoots with this whole thing? Okay? So now you've got a little bit of basis about what this mess is that they called replacement theology. Now I'm going to give you just a little bit more information and we're going to start going into scripture. When you've been taught something all your life, and for those of you who are like me who grew up in church, it takes a while to get that out of you, the false teaching things out of you. So therefore, it takes a little information to get you to believe and understand what you are reading, even for somebody to come to you and try to get you to understand what is being said. So I'm going to give you some information from some of the top teachers in the church. And I'm going to give you some information from some scholars, what they are actually saying about this theology of supersessionism. Okay. Henry N. Clayman. Please don't fall asleep during this. This is some real stuff. Henry N. Clayman defines supersessionism as the belief that the coming of Messiah, Jesus Christ, rendered Judaism obsolete. Now listen, I've already told you that the real belief is not called Judaism. Keeping the Torah is not called Judaism. Okay? But it's inserted into the words. And so when you hear Judaism, you think about Jewish people who don't believe in Messiah. And the Messiah was against Judaism. He spoke against Judaism. He spoke against those traditional man-made laws. But this is what we got to work with because this is what they say. Okay, Jasper Svartvik, Svartvik, writes this. The word suppressionism describes the influential idea that Christians, in parentheses, the people of the new covenant, close parentheses, have replaced Jews, open parentheses, the people of the old covenant, close parentheses, as the people of God. So now the Christians have replaced the Jews, the people of God. From Clayman, 3 tenets of suppressionism. These are 3 tenets of suppressionism. They won't work without this. Christianity replaced Judaism as God's chosen revelation. Number 1 was Christianity replaced Judaism as God's chosen revelation. I'm writing it down as they say it. So, I say Yah. But number 2, Judaism was a necessary prelude to Christianity. It was necessary for the Jews to have it and then for them to be pushed away and the Christians be bought in. It was God's plan. Number 3, the Hebrew Bible foretells the coming of Christ. So you have to have all of those things in. So since the Hebrew Bible tells about the coming of Christ, and now Christ comes and those people are here believing in him, then he has done away with everything before Christ. That's what they say. Okay, Torah equals less than the new covenant. Torah or the older covenant equals less than the newer covenant. A key transformation in the history of Christianity. I'm going to give you three points to this. A key transformation in the history of Christianity. So Christianity has transformed somewhere. Some Jesus movements began to see their own literature as scripture, even on par with Torah. Now, this is from them. This is them saying this. This isn't me saying this, okay? I'm not saying that the new covenant isn't scripture, okay? I'm just going to give it to you like they say it. Some Jesus movements begin to see their own literature as scripture, even on par to the same comparison as Torah. So these letters that were written from Paul have been put on the same standard as the words that came out of Yah's mouth and was written down by Moses. Number 2, texts that serve as a testament to this new covenant would be valued. The theology of supersessionism would require Torah to be seen as a testament to the old covenant. So that's why they changed it from the old covenant to the Old Testament, because the Old Testament can be altered. The old covenant cannot be altered. So you have to change the wordings to make it fit what you want it to say. Now, if you can only have a testament after, a testament is like a will. A will only takes effect after somebody dies. A covenant doesn't. A covenant takes effect when two people are alive and they make an agreement. That agreement never dies. But a testament only comes into effect after a person died. Can anybody tell me when y'all died? I know his son died. I know Yahusha died himself. His son is part of him, died. But can anybody tell me when Yah himself came down and died?
He didn't.
No, he didn't. Oh, but yes, he did, because he's God. Well, then how was he on the stake saying, Father, please forgive them? Why was he talking to himself? I'm just,
Right.
come on, y'all. Let's use our minds. Why was he talking to himself? And why did himself turn his back on himself? Now, I'm not saying that the Yahusha is not a part of Yah. Clearly, his arm, this arm right here is connected to my body, and my mind tells this arm and this hand what to do. Clearly, he was the, as I said, he was the arm of Yah. He was the arm of him. But to make the old covenant become a testament, Yah has to die. So that's why we know that it's not called the Old Testament. It's called the older covenant. And it's called it shouldn't even, neither one of those should be in there, because that covenant was moved on and it was changed. It was added to. See, that's the good thing about a covenant. You can't take away from it, but you can add to it. And so when Yahusha came, our Messiah came, he added to the covenant. So now we don't have to have animals die for our sin. Yahusha comes, he says, no, I'm going to take care of this once and for all. No more do you have to have animals. I'm going to be the ultimate sacrifice. Boom, there it is. Covenant just been altered, amended, and added to. No more animals, now Messiah. It's the same covenant. It's just been restored. It's been made new. New word. That word new shouldn't even be in there. It shouldn't be new covenant. Call it renewed covenant. So when the moon goes away and it comes back, biblically, do you know what that's called? It's called the renewed moon. Why? Same moon. It just came back new again. It's not a brand new moon. There's a new moon. No, it's the renewed moon. So let's start thinking in our minds. Let's stop letting people tell us and religions tell us how to think. Let's stop letting religions tell us how to act. And let's start doing what the word of the Most High says. All right? Last one. And then we're going to start getting into scripture. This is the last point, point 3. Thus, Torah becomes the Old Testament. Torah becomes the Old Testament. Number 2 was the text that serves as a testament to the new covenant would be valued. Have to value it. See, it wouldn't be valued if it wasn't on the same level as the old. So they have to devalue the old and value what they call the new. The theology of suppressionism would require Torah to be seen as a testament to the old covenant. Because of this, the formerly Hebrew scripture is now something representative of an older testament that has now been superseded by the New Testament. See how they do it? We call it old, we got new, then we bring new in and we push old out. We push old out, we ain't got to obey what y'all says. We just going to do what Jesus says. And little do they know, the one whom they call Jesus did exactly what his father said. He kept all the feast days. He gave his 10%. He even had a fish that had a coin in his mouth and said, hey, go down there and get that fish, that coin out of that fish. He observed all of it. He kept the Sabbath. He went into the synagogues or to the assemblies on the day of the Sabbath and he taught. You don't hear about him talking about in the assemblies on Sunday. Why does everything get changed after he dies? If he was here and say Sunday is going to be the day, don't you be like, hey, y'all, I'm getting ready to change some things up. We're going to start meeting on this day, Sunday, because this is going to be about me. And when I'm gone, y'all be doing it. Not when I die, then somebody say something about our roles on Sunday, and then we all start meeting on Sunday. That's not how it works. We have to hold ourselves according to the scripture. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm an emotional being, and this is the way y'all made me, and this is how I'm going to be. I can't play like somebody else. I can't. Supersessionism became one of the bedrocks. Listen, this is not from me. This is from them. Supersessionism became one of the bedrocks in belief in anti-Semitism. Hey, somebody find in Genesis 10 about Ham, Shem, and Japheth and read that for me. See, this is another way that they twist us up, okay? Semitism. That word is not in the Bible, okay? It's anti-Shemitism. Shem, okay? So it means being against Shem. All right? Can y'all read that out loud? Just read that one verse where it talks about Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Yeah.
The children of Shem, Elam, this is 22.
Okay, so that's Genesis 10, starting at verse 22.
Yes. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Araphax, and Lud, and Aram.
Okay, you can stop right there. So we hear the word Shem, even in your King James Bible, the word Shem is there. All right, so that means that they are Shemites. They are descendants of Shem. So when people speak against us and call us the N-word, they are actually speaking anti-Shemitism. But for those people who are not of the line of Shem, they're the line of Japheth, the third son who went up into Europe. And then they converted to Judaism and came back down and dwelt in the land. So they are called, and when you say something against them, it's called anti-Semitism, not anti-Shemitism. All right? So that's how they twist everything up to bring them in. And it's really us who are sitting here hidden from the world that we are the people of Yah. So let's keep going. Superstitionism became one of the bedrock beliefs in anti-Semitism, which is still prevalent, a prevalent discourse today. It's more prevalent than they even think, because they got the wrong people that they're looking at to be Shem's descendant. If you want to go back and hear this information, I'm going to give you the place to go and get this. You can go to YouTube, and they've even got it on YouTube. It's called Pre-121. Pre-121 Hebrews, and supersessionism. I got ready to say subsessionism. So pre-121, Hebrews and supersessionism. And it's a mini lecture. Mini lectures. Sometimes when you gotta go find some stuff out, you gotta go get that information where it's at. And when you hear it, you're like, whoa. All right. So this all began in the 2nd century. It wasn't before that. It's a Johnny come lately thing. So let's look at the scripture that's used for the basis of supersessionism or replacement theology or fulfillment theology. Let's look at the scripture. There's only about 5 or 6 basis scriptures that they use, and you can all imagine where they come from. My elder Paul or Shaul, man, if he knew how they were slaughtering his words up today, man, he would be hot to know that Satan has actually taken his words and used it for his benefit to twist people. So let's look at what those scriptures are. Let's go to Romans chapter 2. Romans chapter 2. And we're going to look at verse 28 and 29. Chapter 2, verse 28 and 29. Okay. For he is not a... Let's go before that. Let's go 27. And the uncircumcised by nature, who perfects the Torah, shall judge you, who notwithstanding letter and circumcision are a transgressor of the Torah. For he is not a Yehudi or a Jew who is so outwardly. Neither is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh. But a Yehudi or a Jew is he who is so inwardly. And circumcision is that of the heart, in spirit, not literally, whose praise is not from men, but from Elohim. That's an awesome verse. Everything that he said was true. But he also says in other places, to the Jew first. So is he speaking what they call malarkey? Is he like double speaking? We're going to say one section. We all the same, which we are under Yah through Messiah. But then over here, Paul's going to say to the Jew first. Did you have something you want to say, bro?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I just want to quickly say within that same letter, man put chapters in, but
yes.
in Romans chapter 1 verse 16,
yes,
the chapter say in Romans chapter 2 verse 9 and 10,
yep.
the same chapter that I was reading,
yep.
clearly gives the order.
Yep.
To the Yehuda first or Jew first, and then to the Greek or Gentile.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we might as well just go on and read that out loud, so I don't have to go talk about that now. Let's do verse 15.
What chapter?
Which chapter 1?
Chapter 1.
Romans 1.
Mm-hmm. Let's just start at verse 15. That is why chapter 1, verse 15. That is why I'm so eager to bring the good news also to you who are in Rome. Now, see, that's another lesson right there in itself. He's actually going to meet with the Hebrew assembly that has engrafted people, meaning Gentiles. People from other nations are coming to the assembly in Rome where the Yehudi are actually congregating. People don't think about that. When he went to Galatians, he didn't go to a Galatians church where it was all Gentiles. No, he went to a Galatian assembly of Yehudi people, Hebrews. And these Hebrews had these other nation of people coming in and associating with them. So he's having to speak to these people who are not Yehudi, who are actually probably outnumbering now because they've heard the truth, outnumbering the Yehudi people there. So he's having to teach them about Yah's word. But even so, they didn't have Yah's word, the newer covenant. They had the written word from the Torah back then, and he was teaching them from the Torah. Now, how's the Torah done away with if you're teaching newer covenant believers? Man, it blows me away. All right. Verse 16, for I am not ashamed of the good news of Messiah, for it is the power of Elohim for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehudi or the Jew first, and also the Greeks. And actually, what does it really say? Arameans. That Greek word is an added word right there. It's actually supposed to be and the Arameans. So he's showing you that the scripture, the word, is to the Yehudi first, and then everybody else is second. All right? So he ain't double speaking. He's just telling the truth. To the Jew first, and then after that comes the other nations. And we're going to read in Romans 11 a little later on how that comes to play, why that comes to place. But we're still talking about supersessionism, replacement theology. Did the church replace? So this is one of the scriptures that they like to use, Romans chapter 2, verse 28 and 29. Okay, let's go to the next one. Romans chapter 9 and verse 6. These are the bedrock verses. Without these verses, they couldn't build their false doctrine that they teach. 9 and verse 6. However, it is not as though the word of Elohim has failed, for they are not all Israel who are of Israel. Neither are they all children because they are the seed of Abraham. But in Yitzhak or Isaac, your seed shall be called. Okay. Let's talk about the Hebrew. Hebrew uses a lot of idioms. Okay? A lot of idioms. Better yet, let's call it, Hebrew has a lot of play on words. So what does he mean by, for verse 6, for they are not all Israel who are of Israel? Do you know what that first Israel is supposed to be and what it should be? Overcomers. Let's read this again. For they are not all overcomers who are of Israel. So even those who are in Israel, who are not overcomers, overcomings mean have the shed blood of Messiah covering them. When they came to belief in Messiah, they completed that, because see, back then it was hard to be a believer. Ain't like today, everybody's a believer. Back then, you say you're a believer, you might get your life taken. You might get thrown in jail and thrown in prison. So they call them overcomers. But not everybody who calls himself Israel is Israel. You have to be an overcomer to be Israel. Okay, so that's the second. And let me give you the last one. Last several. Let's go to Galatians. Now, you know they got to go to Galatians because they misinterpreted it over and over again. They love that book. And we read through that book. There's a study that's up. Oh, it's not up. I need to go back and do that. But we read through that book and broke that whole book down. And it has nothing to do with what they try to make it twist up and be. All right? So let's look at Galatians chapter 3. We're going to start and look at verse 7 first. Galatians 3, verse 7. So it says in verse 7, just so y'all can hear the verse clearly, I normally have everybody else read it, but know then that those who are of belief are sons of Abraham. Ding, ding, ding. That is true. If you come into belief in Messiah and you believe on the Father and his word, true. You are a seed of Abraham. No doubt. But you might want to think about this. If you come in belief, and this is kind of like going to be hard to understand. If you come into belief in Messiah and you love the Father, but you don't keep the Father's instructions on how you are to live, might that be one of the people that Messiah says, away from me, I never knew you? Because how are you going to say that you believe in Messiah and you believe in Yah, but yet you don't follow Yah's instruction? See, the ones who follow his instruction and have the belief of the testimony, that's Yah's children. That's who the Messiah died for. But if you come and believe in Messiah and say you believe in Yah, but you don't listen to him, nor go by his instruction on how you to live your life, you may be fooling yourself. Might be a tough lesson. You might need to study that one out and read that and see how you actually go wrong in that. Okay, let's go. Let's read another one. Verse 16 and 17. Chapter 3, verse 16 and 17. But the promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed. And he does not say, and to seeds, as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, Messiah. Verse 17. Now this I say, Torah that comes 430 years after or later does not annul a covenant previously confirmed by Elohim in Messiah, so as to do away with the promise. So we received a promise of Abraham. Okay, and when the Torah was actually given to the people, what they're saying is that when Messiah came, that annulled the instructions of the Most High. That's not the case. And let's keep going though. But I want to use the scripture, and I'm not against these scriptures because what they say is true, but it's how they take them and use them to build a doctrine that we have the problem with. Okay, let's go to verse 28 and 29. Verse 28 and verse 29.
Chapter 3.
Yeah, chapter 3. Okay, there is not Yehudi or Jew nor Greek. There is not slave nor free. There is not male and female. For you are all one in Messiah. Now, if you're going to take that at face value, then you could actually use this verse the way that it's interpreted. You could use this verse to be like, homosexuality is okay. There's no male, there's no female. I mean, come on. So we know that there is a Jew or Israel or Israelites or Yehudi, Hebrews. And we know that there are Greeks. We know that there are male and we know that there are female. Okay? But I think what he's saying is when we come to Messiah, all of that really doesn't matter. That's what's being used to prop up supersessionism. So it doesn't matter that Yah gave the promises to Israel no more. We all the same. So Israel's done away with. Boop. Now here's the church. When you take these scriptures and you take them and set them aside by themselves, you can build another doctrine. So, have you ever heard Paul speak against Isaiah? I mean, doesn't he say right here, where we go? There is not Jew or Greek, there is not slave nor free, there is not male and female. We know that there's male and female. We know that there's Jew and Greek. For you are all one in Messiah. And if you are of Messiah, then you are seed of Abraham and heirs according to the promise. All right. So I've never heard Paul, y'all, go against Isaiah before. I know that there are going to be, I know it says slaves, but then, thank you, sweetie. But then we look at slaves as the way that slavery was taking place, which was done upon us. See, that's not the kind of slavery that was allowed in the kingdom. That was not the kind of slavery that Yah allowed. He didn't allow them to beat on their people. He didn't allow them to mistreat their people. See, if you was a servant in Israel, you was almost like a part of the family. You were respected. Matter of fact, it was even told, the owners were told how to treat their servants. Okay, so when you see the word slavery in the Bible, don't coincide that with what they did to us. That's two different kind of things, two different kind of slaveries, two different animals. And Yah's gonna make them pay for it. So let's see if what Paul is saying something any different. I don't think that he is. So let's go to Isaiah and let's look at Isaiah 14, verse 1 through 4. Now, some of you are going to say, well, this is a little tough to hear. I don't believe that God would do something like that or God would say something like that. But it's in Isaiah. All right? And so Isaiah says, while I'm talking, I need to go on and just turn there. Isaiah 14, verse 1 through 4. Now just listen before you turn the television off or your computer, before you start trying to throw emails at stones over here. Just listen. Verse 14, chapter 14 and verse, we're going to read 1 through 4. Because Yahuwah has compassion on Jacob. Jacob is Israel. And shall again choose Israel. He's again, listen, this is all prophecy. This is prophecy. Matter of fact, let me just go on and set this up. I think I went too early. Okay. In this chapter right here, there are two aspects of fulfillment. And what do you mean by aspects of fulfillment? I mean this. You read this whole passage right here, you hear him talking about they're going to go into Babel. They're going to go into Babylon, right? So they're going to go into Babylon, and this is what's going to take place. And then Yah's going to drop his hand on the king of Babel. And then it moves into Satan. So this is a prophecy that has two forms to it. It was what was actually going to be taking place right at that time when they were going to be going into Babel. And then the second aspect is what was going to take place in the latter days. The king of Babel, which is the king of this whole Babylonian system today. You see, when you go and read further, Satan hasn't been dropped into the hole quite yet. So it can't not be a prophecy. It is a prophecy of what is going to happen to Satan. But this first part is about our people going into Babylon and they were going to come out. The second part of the prophecy is the people who were going to be in Babylon and he's going to bring them out and they're going to rest in their home from that point on. So let's go. Just so you know, two aspects of prophecy going on here. One that was almost then at their time and then one that was future that was going to be coming down the pipe. All right. So don't get that twisted. And this is just, he's talking about them going in up. No, it ain't just that. Go back and read your Bible. Here we go. So because Yahuwah, the doctrine that the church uses, that same man comes back and says that y'all put them asleep for a little while so y'all can come in and y'all get to come in, but their coming back is going to be even greater. Y'all, we have to watch how we allow people to teach us. First of all, anybody can teach us whatever the heck they want to teach us if we don't know what we're talking about. Anybody can teach us whatever they want to teach us if we don't have the knowledge to back up and go against what they're saying. If not, you got to agree with them. Why? Because you don't know. I don't ever hear any of us saying, well, I don't know about that, Pastor. I need to go back and look at that, and then I'll come back and tell you what my thought is on it. No, Pastor said. When you got something, just let me know.
Oh, I have nothing. I'm listening.
Okay.
This is good.
All right. So, verse 16. Now, if the first fruit, Israel, is set apart, the lump is also. And if the root is set apart, so are the branches. And if some of the branches, Israel, were broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, have been grafted in among them, and came to share the root and fatness of the olive tree. Listen to what's being said. Do not boast against the branches. And if you boast, remember, you do not bear the root, but the root bears you. You can't come setting yourself up above Israel. How you gonna do that? You can't set yourself above Yah's people, the apple of his eye. And see, this is what the problem is with the church. Y'all come in and y'all take over. You take over the Hebrew faith. See, I know something's going on because my frame is freezing up on YouTube. Okay, it's freezing up. When I'm getting excited, it's starting to freeze up. So it makes me think something going on.
That's right.
Yeah. See, I know when the demon of the earth gets to fooling around with stuff because you start saying what's true.
It froze up for a second, but it's good now.
Okay, all right. So the church, you all want to come in, and do we know whether anybody got 1928? 1828. Okay, can you look up the word church? I'm sorry, I gotta go here. I gotta go here because every time we say the word church, we use that in place of what they were actually called in the beginning. They were called the assembly. In Hebrew, if you want to use the word, it was called the adah. If you want to use the Greek, it's called ecclesia. But they was never called church. Okay? Church is a pagan name. Yah never called his assembly the church. So we go all through the Bible. The first assembly that ever met was Sinai. If you want to call it a church, why don't it call them the church in Sinai? Why is it that Yahusha, from Matthew all the way through to John, says adah, or he says assembly? But when it gets past the Messiah dying and we come to the book of Acts, we started some new thing called a church. Do you see where they've gotten in and they've kind of done a little messing around? It wasn't intentionally by them, I don't believe. I think it's because Satan, if I can't beat him, I'm going to join him. So that's what he's done. So now we have that. If y'all have that, read that for me. And read it loud, please. We'll give you the definition of the word church from the 1828 Webster's Dictionary.
Well, there's a couple of different things, but in here it says
Loudly, please.
unto a collective body of Christians or of those who profess to believe in Christ and acknowledge him to be the Savior of mankind. In this sense, the church is sometimes called the Catholic or Universal Church. Okay, so the church is called the Catholic or Universal Church. If you listen, you're a part of the Catholic Church. I don't know how else to say it. Okay, that's where the word church comes from. It wasn't from Messiah. It wasn't from the Father. It wasn't from the apostles. The word church was not a part of the scripture. That was added in its place for ecclesia or the adah or the assembly. Okay, so anybody have the one where it talks about where that word derives from? The German.
Oh, you mean the Cersei? That's going to be in the etymology.
Okay, can you find that one? So we're going to give you the etymology of the word church. This is the etymology of the word church. And it comes back to Cersei. All right? Cersei, we know Cersei to be, for those of you who had at K-State Integrative Studies, IGS course in college, Cersei was a goddess who changed men into animals. Okay? This is where that word church derives from. It means circle. So you see the wheel is a circle. You see the circus, Circe. The word church comes back to an old Anglo-Germanic word called, what's it called? I just lost it. Church. Kirke. There it is. I had to say it. Kirke, it comes back to that. If y'all don't pull it up, y'all go back and do your own research. Okay. We're going to keep going, and when they find it, I'm gonna read it for y'all. So that word church never was in the scripture anyway. You got it? Oh, hallelujah. Thank you, Brother Spearman. That's my man right there, bro. Okay, church. This is the 1928. It's going to be backwards to you all, but it says the American Dictionary, the English language. All right. So this was created back in 1828. It's not this new stuff that they come out trying to fool you with. This is older is always better than the new because the older has more truth in it. Hate to say it. So church, it says Sax, S-A-X, Circe, C-I-R-C-E, Circe, or Cyric, nunciation, Kirk, Kirche, or Kirika, yeah, or Kirke, a temple of God from pertaining to a Lord or to our Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, did you catch that? Come on now, here we go. I'm going to slow it down for you. Temple of God from or pertaining to a Lord. A Lord. Okay? So this word actually comes back to a deity. So that's how we know and we can say that word church, the early believers were not called a church. Okay? So I'm not going to go no further. You go get online. You can pull it up and look it up. Get yourself one of these books that goes back a little bit further. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Ephraim, hand that to Brother Spearman. But that's why it's important to look at those things and understand what is actually being said. All right? So let's keep going. Oh, it's 3:03. Man, this is going to be a two-part series, y'all. We won't be able to finish this today. So let's go ahead and keep finishing. Let's start back in verse 17. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, have been grafted in among them, and came to share the root and fatness of the olive tree, do not boast against the branches. And if you boast, remember, you do not bear the root, but the root bears you. You shall say then, the branches, Israel, were broken off, that I, the church, might be grafted in. Good. By unbelief, they were broken off. They didn't believe in Messiah. By unbelief, they were broken off, and you stand by belief. Belief in Messiah. Do not be arrogant, but fear. He says, don't be arrogant. Don't go around here saying Israel ain't nothing no more, and it's all about us now. It's the church. The church, we the new Israel. No, you're not. Israel's an old thing. Ain't no new Israel. Okay, so verse 22. See then the kindness and sharpness of Elohim. On those who fell, sharpness, but towards you, kindness. If you continue in his kindness, otherwise you also shall be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in unbelief. Do you hear that? Hey, look, I'm Israel. I'm not in unbelief. I'm back. Most of y'all Israel, you in unbelief. You back. So they got to quit being arrogant. It was our forefathers who brought the Torah. It was our forefathers who were given the promises to lead the world. And so y'all, put us off just a little bit, darken the eyes, and let y'all come in. And this is for those who are part of the church that I'm saying this to, who don't believe that Israel is going to be used by Yah again. This is who I'm talking to. And they also, if they do not continue in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Elohim is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, meaning you come from another tree, another olive tree, not the olive tree of Israel. You come from another. Let me give you an important fact here. You can take the branch off of an olive tree, take a branch from a wild olive tree, put it in the place of that branch that was cut out, and within 3 days, it'll hold. And that branch will start producing olives from that tree. Now it's a part of that olive tree, okay? So you can also take an olive branch that you think is dead and carve another piece of that out of that tree, and you can take that branch and stick it to the side of that tree and wrap it up, and it'll take hold, and that branch will come back to life. And it'll start producing olives again. He gave you an understanding about an olive tree for you, oh Gentiles, to understand your place. Your place is not in front of Israel. Your place is not to sit on top of Israel and bring in your supersessionism theology. No, you better quit that boasting, because he said he'll take you out. Ain't your place. But let's see who he calls the people of belief. Let's continue. Verse 25. For I do not wish you to be arrogant of this secret, brothers, lest you should be wise in your own estimation, that hardening in part has come over Israel until the completeness of the nations. King James says the fullness of the Gentiles. So until Yah says, okay, that's enough of them, it's going to switch back. He's just holding the door open for you. Israel, had my forefathers not sinned, you people from other nations would not even have the right to come into belief. But yet you want to put my forefathers down like they're horrible people. We all horrible. You just better be glad that they was horrible so you can come in. Now I know that's strong, but it's the truth. And the truth is strong. Let's keep going. Verse 26. Listen. And so all the church shall be saved. Did I misread that? So all Christianity shall be saved. That's not what that says. I hope y'all reading y'all word. Don't let me mislead you. He says, and so all Israel shall be saved. When I stand before my maker, even if I don't stand in front of him and I find out I'm a Gentile, I'm still going to be called Israel. Still. But what scares me is that you all don't connect yourself to Israel. Israel is done away with. I got more scripture. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it down. I got a whole lot more. We're going to do this again next week, y'all. Bring your family, because the scripture that I'm going to go over is even more important than what I just went over.
Good job,
So let me tell you what replacement theology has bought. All right? Pay close attention to this. I'm going to wrap this up. Most High willing, if you let me continue living, y'all, for real. So replacement theology has bought this. The church replaces Israel. I'm going to say them slow for you so you can write them down. The church replaces Israel. Rome replaces Jerusalem. Rome replaces Jerusalem. Pagan rituals replace biblical customs. Pagan rituals replace biblical customs. Babylonian feasts replace biblical feasts. You see what replacement theology is doing? Babylonian feasts replace biblical feasts. Sunday replaces Sabbath. Sunday replaces Sabbath, and heaven replaces the kingdom. This is what replacement theology or supersessionism brings to the table. It pushes Israel out and it brings them in and say that God only deals with the church. And clearly, so far, that phrase and that way of thinking goes against Scripture. Those Gentiles who are going to be coming in as believers with Israel, some of them are going to be servants of Israel. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 1 through 4.
It says somewhere else too.
Oh, it says it in a number of different places. It says that the oppressor will serve the oppressed. Right. You think about your great grandmama and granddaddy and think about who oppressed them. You think about your great granddaddy and who oppressed them. You think about your great granddaddy and who oppressed him. And think about your granddaddy and who oppressed them. Today's time, you think about your father and who oppresses him. Just the truth. Yeah, I'm oppressed. We all oppressed. We pay more taxes than anybody else in the world. If Israel wasn't even important in this country and y'all took all of Israel out of this country would fall. Israel spends more money per capita than any other nation of people inside this nation. $16 trillion a year black folks spend. If they was to let us go, this country's economic system would fall. And that's why you're still here. We were bought here as slaves. Everybody else was bought here as immigrants. So they can kick all the immigrants they want to out of this country, but supposedly they can't kick you out because you're not an immigrant. Jim Crow laws didn't apply to no other immigrants, but it did apply to us. Harsh bondage, which was predicted on us from the beginning. So I hope that this is good for you. Next week, we're going to go even deeper. We're going to go into the word fully about whom Yah will choose, who he's going to come back for. And I forgot one. The rapture, it just came to me. The rapture replaces walking into the kingdom. You see, when you're raptured away like the Christian church teaches, then what about that highway that we're supposed to be walking back on? That does away with all that. So I hope this was good for you. Please don't mistake my emotion for hate. It is not hate. I hate nobody. I just hate the sin that people are doing. I hate the sin of confusion that our brothers and sisters who are in the churches, that they produce. That's what I hate. But as far as hating people, hey, church folk, I don't hate y'all. I love y'all, but I feel like you got to be spoken strongly to for some of you to get it. And some of you done probably clicked off and turned off already. I can't do nothing about that. I'm so sorry. But hopefully later on, somebody else is going to come around and do some watering, and that seed that was planted today will grow. So I'm smart enough and wise enough to know that everybody who hears what I say is not going to get it right now. But there is going to come a time when Yah is going to awaken people. Elder Spearman, You got something in closing?
No. Good job. I'm looking forward to next week.
All right. Anybody else got anything?
Actually, I downloaded this app called law.com.
Law.com.
It's a law book, and it brings up the old laws that were put into play in the early years, and when the government was formulating, and it was talking about what minority means. They consider us to be a minority, and minority is actually it's considered to be inferior.
Yeah,
they call it inferior and everything like that. And so that's how they actually look at us as a people. They don't consider us to even be citizens of this United States.
Right. Yeah. That's why they could create their laws against us. Their law. We fight for their legal system, brother, but their legal system ain't for us. Right. Never was created for us.
Right.
So that's why when I would arrest a guy for marijuana, a white guy for possession of marijuana, and I would arrest a black guy for possession of marijuana, when we go into the courthouse, the white guy, he'll get probation. The black guy, he just got 6 months. So the scales are not like this. It's not like this for us. It's more like that. Go ahead.
I will say something quickly.
Go ahead.
Again, we all have come to understand. Many of us have come to understand that Deuteronomy 28 and the curses of 15 to 68 do show what we as the black people have gone through.
Right.
Yes, sir. Scattered. Now, with that being said, how is the Most High only going to punish us for having the covenant and disobeying it?
Yes.
And then returning back and getting rewarded. But all the other nations and religions are not going to suffer. They have not suffered.
You cutting into my lesson for next week.
I'm going to stop right there.
No, go ahead. No, good. Come on. No, go ahead.
Well, guess what? They have to suffer their punishment. You're not going to just go whisk off into some rapture and you get all the dirt you did, your forefathers. There's been no reparations, no real punishment. And I'll probably leave it at that because I know you're going to break that down.
No, that's real talk.
Yeah, because real talk is you have not suffered your punishment. Yah's not going to just punish us as a people, and then everybody else gets in with no type of punishment and no types of repayment or reparation. Yah is a just Yah, and the scales have to be even, and we're owed a whole lot.
I have
shows it.
I have recordings of Gentiles themselves, preachers of big ministries on TV. I have a recording of them saying, we have never been punished for what we did to black people.
Right.
Every action has to have a reaction. Right. Every sin that was committed against someone has to be paid for. And he says, America is getting ready to pay. This is a Caucasian saying this. America is getting ready to pay for what they have done to black people. The problem is he doesn't understand that America is getting ready to pay for what they did to Israel.
Right.
See, they're thinking off in the realm of color. Right. Now we thinking off in the realm of nation, ethnicity of a group of people. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that next week. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that wasn't a question. But hey, I thank you all. I'm not going to hold you all any longer. We could go all day, but we're not going to. We're going to come back next week. I've got probably 3 times as many scriptures to go over next week. So we're going to get in and we're going to hit it and we're going to get out. And I pray that it doesn't go to 3 parts and it only stays 2. But if it does, I can't help that. But you all have a good Shabbat. Hey, rest the rest of it out. Enjoy yourselves. Eat, spend time with your family. Husbands, love up on your wives. Wives, love up on your husbands. And husbands and wives, love up on your children. You all have a good Shabbat. Shalom.
Broken man, broken nation, broken law of the ancient. Yahuwah words are sacred, he's so patient. Broken from language, broken from everything that we've known. We broken, we spiritually broken, replace that void with sound. Big mama practiced at home, but boy, she sang in them churches, trying to sing out of pain. It's like we spiritually hurting. I see my people with curses, content to live with no purpose. And we all seem to fight, it's like a circus, I know. But we can party for show and get fresh and go. It seems the cares of the world is more important to most. And even me, I'm not exempt. See, my flesh could be tripping. And the choices that you make will only choose your position. You see, a fool lacks wisdom, and it shows in your actions. So if you